Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends. So welcome to today's episode. As always, I'm always thrilled to be here with you. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that probably applies to absolutely every single person on the planet, and it's relationships. Those amazing things that, can connect us, make our heart open, take us to a whole new level, see new perspectives, but also relationships can also be destructive. They can take us down. We can get stuck in a pattern. We can recreate our family trauma, our family childhood. And, as someone who does what I do in the world, which is I never can explain what I do, and people always go, no wonder why you can't explain what you do, is because I take each person and their unique blueprint and their unique sort of journey through life, not just this life, but I look at past lifetimes. And I'm always looking at, I say to people, if you have something that you've been trying to change for a long time, whether it's a diagnosis or health issue or weight or money or business, and you keep trying and you've worked with coaches or healers, or you've gone to therapy, or you've done your own work over and over, you've gone breath work or meditation, and no matter what, you can't seem to quite shift out of this sort of repeating pattern that you're in. My personal philosophy, take it or leave it, is that it's usually because there's something trapped in your system from a past lifetime. And so let me explain that before we actually dive into the topic that we're really going to talk about, which is relationships. And so this is just my own personal belief. It's what I've learned through 30 years of being exposed to shamans and healers and some of the world's most renowned people in the world. Some of my clients, some of the most renowned people in the world. And I'm always fascinated. And I'm fascinated, I pinch myself. I'm like, I get to do this every day. And I've always said to people, if someone gave me $100 million today, I would still be doing what I do. I would still be doing what I do because I love it so much. And it lights me up. It creates a world. And so here's my philosophy, is that we all have past lifetimes. We've all been other places. And so when we die in a lifetime, the imprinting from that lifetime stays imprinted sort of on, you can call it your soul, you can call it whatever you want, but it stays imprinted. And so then when you get a new life, the imprinting from your old life is then still imprinted. And so when you're born, your cells take on the memory of that imprint. And so there are certain patterns that we will repeat lifetime over lifetime. I've worked with a lot of people who want to be healers. And before they go to healing, they're like, I can't do it. I'm going to be burned at the stake. I'm going to be drowned. I'm going to die if I share my work in the world. And that's where you know that it's from a past lifetime. And guess what? We can clear those. And they actually can clear quickly and easily, depending on right? Your point of view, depending on your perspective. And so I think that anything is changeable, right? Marie Forleo has a saying, everything is figure outable. And I really believe that we can transform almost anything in our lives. Where it gets tricky is, do you believe that it's possible to transform it? And so I've been able to work with people and we get to the sort of root or nitty gritty of the pattern. And then we shift it and things change. And things can change quite quickly. And so in relationships, we tend to repeat patterns lifetime after lifetime. So maybe you were born in royalty, and one of your patterns is that you just know you're going to create a lot of wealth in every lifetime that you're in, right? Maybe one of the patterns is you were born into royalty, you had a ton of wealth, you had a ton of wealth, you had a ton of wealth, and all of a sudden the wealth got taken away from you. But worse, you lost your loved ones and the wealth got taken away from you. And you're like, I'm never going to have that wealth again because I never want to lose my loved ones. And so then you get into relationships where you end up tend to be broke or struggling financially. And you can't ever get back to that sense of total abundance in relationship and in life because you're afraid that if you let yourself have that much wealth again, your loved ones will be taken away from you. Now, when I'm talking about this, this is not a cognitive experience that we go through. Our stuck patterns really are in the unconscious realm, the realm that we can't see, the realm that we can't figure out. And most of the times, it's hard to verbally change patterns in the unconscious, subconscious realm. Where you change patterns in the subconscious, unconscious realm is through energy, through nonverbal, through processes that take you through an exchange where you can remove the pattern out of the cells of your body and also remove the imprinting out of the cells of your body. And so relationships are sort of that thing that we all want, right? But yet a lot of us sometimes struggle. Empaths definitely struggle. Healers can definitely struggle in relationship, right? Intuitives can definitely struggle in relationship, and just really anyone in general, right? And so, especially if you were born in a family where you were raised in sort of a tumultuous relationship where your childhood didn't feel quite lovey-dovey, right? Where there was a lot of ups and downs, where there was addiction, where there was lying, where there was cheating. And so it makes you sort of create a an idea of what you see is the way that the world works. But what you see is just what you were used to seeing, and you can change it. And that brings me to the topic I want to talk about specifically in relationship. And so I was talking recently to a couple, and they had, had their own journey with their relationship as most couples do, which was kind of beautiful relationship for a long time, and then things got really hard and they separated, and then I was reuniting with them when they were getting back together. And I was asking them, like, how's it going? I'm so happy you guys got back together. Must be so great. And then I kind of went on this tangent about why it gets hard specifically between men and women. Now, this doesn't have to be just men and women, but this will give you an idea. And so I was saying, yeah, women like to talk, 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 talk to their partner to try to figure things out. And men actually hate that. And here's the reason why. There's scientific research why this is so. And men, Women will know that a man isn't doing well and be like, "Why aren't you okay? Why aren't you talking about it? Let's talk about it." And the man does not want to talk about it. It's not because he doesn't want to talk about it, but because he hasn't yet gotten to the point where he can talk about it. Men don't like talking about things until they've gotten the point of what's going on in their world. And here's the research, here's the evidence, scientifically based. Now, I might be off on my numbers, but this is a number I heard a long time ago in my sort of shamanic journeys. And it is this. So, women have 85% more cone cells in their eyes, right? So cone cells are exactly what you think. So if you think of like a megaphone as a cone, right? If you think of an ice cream cone, right? So it has a very small point, and then it has like a funnel, right? So women can take in all this information all at once, and they talk it out to get to the point, right? So they are designed as women, right? We go, "Yay, so nice to see you too." And so women take in all this information. They take in all this information and they love it. That's why women can interrupt each other and they don't miss a beat. They don't get upset if they interrupt. But if you interrupt a man when he's trying to communicate a point, he gets so off target because men have 85% more rod cells in their eyes. So a rod cell is like a telescope, right? You're looking through a long sort of rod-like thing so you can focus on one thing at a time. Women are incredible multitaskers. Men, not so much, right? There is scientific evidence for why this is so. And so in relationship, right, I used to think that my relationships with my significant others, I've chosen men in this lifetime, my relationship with my significant others, I always expected the man to be my everything and anything. So maybe not going shopping with me, but let's go to the movies. Let's watch a romantic, cheesy comedy because that's what I love, right? Let's talk till the sun comes up. Let's, talk about everything and anything. And I realized in my marriage to my son's dad that that actually wasn't going to work, right? And I didn't realize it till we were towards the end of our relationship together. But I was like, wow, my husband actually can't be that for me. And it's an unkindness. That's why I have best friends. It's why I have good girlfriends. It's why I have community. It's why I like to dance. And I expected my husband to want to like the same things I did, to want to support everything I did. But I realize now he just wanted to support me, not necessarily all the things that I loved, right? And so this is true in relationship. Men and women are literally designed differently. It's why the book Men Are From what is it? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, because it speaks to the different ways in which we see the world, literally see the world. Men get uber focused. They might get focused on success. They might get focused on their health. They might, for a time and a place, get focused on you as their partner. But they tend to not want to talk until they know the answer, until they've gotten to the point where women love to talk. And if you take sort of an unmastered or messy idea to a man, he's going to want to try to fix it. He's going to want to try to give you the answer. And you're like, well, I'm not talking for the answer. I'm just talking. And so that's why we have these fundamental differences, which can cause a lot of conflict and disconnect between a man and a woman. It's what can cause a lot of conflict and disconnect in the relationship if you don't honor that these differences are there for a reason, right? And by the way, this can apply to relationships between women and women. This can apply to relationships between men and men. This can apply to business partnerships. If your partner is a man or a woman, it's going to be good information for you to know how they operate. So, I was recently speaking to someone and they were sharing how they were struggling with someone in their business. And I said, well, have you asked yourself, not them, have you asked yourself what they need to hear? What is their functioning lens from which they view the world? I said, because your lens is extremely different, right? Everybody, every single person in the world is wired differently, right? I cannot talk to my son the way that I talk to my girlfriends, right? I can't talk to my partner the way that I talk to my girlfriends. And nor would I expect my son or my partner to talk to me, right? The same way my girlfriends talk to me. I have to work really hard to keep my mouth shut, which isn't always easy, to not interrupt, which isn't always easy, and to be patient and let them come to me when they're ready to come to me, right? It's fascinating. And so, wanted to invite each of you to consider that what if the way you see the world and the way that you were wired was, like if you think of it as like a outlet in the wall, a socket in the wall, and then a plug, right? Imagine putting a plug and a plug together. It wouldn't work, right? We actually need two different things to create that connection, right? And so, it was funny as I was talking to this a couple when I was like, oh, yeah, she wants to talk, 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 and resolve it with you. And you go crazy because you're like lost as she's talking because you just want to know what's the point? What's the thing you need to solve? What's the thing that she came to? What's the aha moment? And he's like, oh my God, you're making so much sense. And I said to her, and you get frustrated because he's not listening. And she's like, yes, I do. And I was like, that's where you need your girlfriends. And she didn't like that so much. And I understand because I did not like that idea when I thought that my man was supposed to be my end all be all for everything. Right. And so relationships are supposed to be different. So here are some things that I wanted to share with you, things that I've learned along the way that may or may not serve you. Right. I say to everyone, I'm human, right? What I share may resonate with you, it may not. Take it or leave it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. Right? Hot tamale in a chamomile tea. And so this is about sort of filter through your awareness what resonates, toss out what doesn't, and see where on your journey you are in your life and take what applies and leave the rest, right? So we're gonna, yeah, I think what we're gonna do, well, we'll talk for a little bit and then we'll take a break and then we'll come back for some more. So, a couple of things that I think are very valuable, specifically in male female relationships, is that women sometimes have a hard time being patient with letting the man come to them, taking their time. Sometimes it takes a man a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months to have a difficult conversation with you. Sometimes they might not be okay, but they might not know why they're not okay. And they need to take their space. It's not personal. It's not about you. It's not because they don't want to connect with you. It's because they need the space to try to come to the point because everything isn't in focus. And they need that time and space and that distance until things come into focus. And when they do come into focus, it takes them a lot to come to the table to share what they discovered. And if you interrupt them, it shuts them down, right? If you think you need to tell them what they know, it shuts them down. If you are not the best listening board, then you say, I can't wait to hear what you discovered, but can we do this when I'm not so distracted with household chores or laundry or all this stuff? Can we have a date night this week where you share? Because what you have to say is really important to me, right? And this is really critical, right? Just an observation, what I've known, almost being here 49 years on the planet and screwing up a lot of relationships because I think that I knew better, but I don't, right? I just think different than the people I choose to be in intimate relationships with. And so that's on the male side. On the female side, you have to recognize that the man doesn't always want you to come to them with everything, right? That brings them and takes them sometimes out of focus and they get confused. They also want to solve it. So if you're wanting just to have a conversation, just to let your person know where you're at, then you want to pretext it by saying, hey, I'd love to just share with you some things. I don't need you to fix anything. I don't need you to change anything. I'm just kind of having a day where I'd love just to share what happened for me. Are you in a place where you feel like you could listen without fixing, without changing? Just listen. And they can go, yes. But if you don't preempt it, they're going to be listening, looking for the point. If you preempt them and say, I don't have a point to this, I don't need fixing, I don't need solving, I don't need this to be problem solved, then they can, like watching a football game. They're not looking for the point. They're not looking for the end game. They're just going to watch the game as you talk about it, right? Really useful information. And so, my advice to a lot of women is if you've been using your man as your sole sounding board, as your everything, go find some girlfriends. Go on hikes, go on walks, go take a yoga class, go to a dance class, go find a group of women, right? And connect to them and use the women. Now, this isn't go to these women and talk crap about your man. That is not what I'm talking about. Go to these women and talk life. Don't always talk life with your man because he's frankly most of the time not interested. This isn't a cut. This isn't mean. They just get overwhelmed with too much cone conversation, right? Too much funnel conversation because it bounces all over the place, right? And another piece that I think is very valuable is in the beginning when you're in a relationship with somebody and it's new and you're not yet sure where it's at, you're not quite fully committed, women do not go talk crap when you get into a fight or things get funky. Do not go talk crap about the person you're dating, right? Go to a therapist, right? Hire a coach. Do not use your girlfriends as your sounding board for your relationships because here's the thing, it can create conflict in your relationship, but it can also create conflict with your friendships because they think they're giving you good advice and then you're like, thank you so much. And then all of a sudden they see you like resolving it over here. And then there's a disconnect between your relationships, right? Huge, huge, right? So this is just a little like life book lesson from the life book of Catherine through. Let's see, I started dating my first husband when I was 23, right? And I knew walking down the aisle not to marry him, but I did. And why? I was telling the story to one of my best friends the other day, and I said, wow, just realized I walked down the aisle for him because I loved his family. And I felt like I had family, and I felt like somebody really cared for me. And my family cared for me deeply, but I had a very dysfunctional childhood, and I craved community. I craved being seen, and I married his family because I felt like I wanted a family, which is really crazy to even say out loud. And it's funny because now my mother loved that woman to death, would do anything for her. Incredible human being. And I actually am great friends with my mom now. But at the time, my mother was going through her own life journey, was raising three other children, my siblings, and I was on the other side of the world in another country where my husband didn't speak any English, and somehow I found that charming and endearing. So we all have different stories. We all have different life journeys. Nobody can tell you what is true in your heart, but maybe some of this will be useful. So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back after the break, and we'll continue with some things that may be relevant for you, that may apply to shifting your relationship in your life. Stay tuned, and we'll be back.
Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to katherinemcintosh.com. KatherineMcintosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, my magical friends. So, welcome back to the show. As always, so excited to just have these conversations. It's funny, I've spent my life feeling a little crazy, and spent my life also thinking that, like, People know what I know. But the truth is, we all see the world differently. And nobody knows what you know in the way you know it. Nobody can see the way you see the world and the way you think you see the world, or thinking that other people see the world the same way you do. It's why we have the Picassos and the Rembrandts and just all these incredible artists, all these incredible musicians. Right, I had the pleasure of being at Austin City Limits Music Festival last weekend, and wow, like 50 different artists, 3 different stages. I only probably caught like 10 musicians, but music is incredible. Art is incredible. Nature is incredible. No two trees are alike. No two musicians are alike. No two people are alike, right? Men and women are not alike. And so when we talk about relationship, in particular today, we're talking about intimate relationships. So whether it's with a spouse, a long-term partner, whether you're dating, whether you're wanting to date, whether you're, curious about which sex you like, all that is your personal preference. But particular, what we're talking about is just the significant difference between men and women that actually is there's scientific based evidence. So women have more cone cells in the cornea of their eyes, 85% more than men, and men have 85% more rod cells. So men like focus. They like to focus on one thing. They get hyper focused on things. And you think they're ignoring you. No, they're just focused on the one thing they can be focused on in that point. And so this is about discovering how to sort of put into perspective, like when you watch a sunset, you don't just watch one point of that sunset. You take in the entire horizon, especially if that sunset is on a mountaintop or is on the ocean and you see the reflection of the colors in the clouds, right? So magical. And so same thing, this is about broadening your horizons, broadening your perspective about this thing. But let's be honest. Every man is different. Every woman is different. What we need is different. And yet this will apply to you in the way it applies to you based on your desires, based on where you are in your phase and season and journey of life, right? One of the things that I have found extremely helpful, and this is just my personal opinion, I do not believe that we are meant to stay in the same bedroom for 50 years, right? One of the things that made my second husband, who is the father of my son, I only have had 2 husbands, not sure about a third. So, is one of the things that really worked for us every day in our relationship with my husband is when we moved in together, we moved into a 1 bedroom, into his place that he was living at. We lasted about 6 months and then it got really hard. And I said, can we move? Can we move into a neutral place that we make ours instead of it already being yours? And can we each have our own bedroom, right? I know couples who have homes side by side. In fact, I saw an interview, like an old little meme interview with Carol Burnett. And she was like, oh my God, the only way I'm getting married is, honey, you have your house and I have mine and we can live right next door to each other, right? But I don't believe we're meant to stay in the same bed with the same person for 50 years. It doesn't mean we don't stay monogamous. But here's why I think this is really important. Because getting 1 bedroom where you only sleep in 1 bedroom for the rest of your lives together, it takes away choice and it creates obligation. And human beings do not like to be obligated to one another. They like choices. And so when my husband and I moved in to a neutral home, right, we were together for 6 years before we got married. We then had our son a year after we got married, and then we lasted another 2 years. So we were, and then we got divorced. So we were together 10-ish, between 9 and 10 years. And for the first 6 years of our relationship together, almost 7 years before our son was born, we had separate bedrooms. The entire time, we had separate bedrooms. And why this was brilliant, because he had his man cave, I had my woman cave, right? We kind of had communal space that we decorated together, but he could decorate his bedroom any way he wanted. He could do whatever he wanted in his bedroom, and I could have my own space, and it was my cocoon, and I loved it. And in this separate bedrooms, where it really worked is that every day we got to choose. Do we want to sleep in the same bed or do we not? And why this is crucial is because every day what it did on an energetic level is gave us choice. Do we want to spend time together or do we not? There was never an obligation, right? When we weren't okay with each other, we'd say, hey, why don't we sleep in separate bedrooms and let's revisit this issue tomorrow? Or let's revisit this issue in 2 or 3 days when we feel better. We weren't going anywhere. We weren't out the door. We didn't have our runaway bride shoes on. We weren't even looking at getting married. It was just like, this is working and it's awesome. And I believe a huge reason it was working is because he had his own bedroom and I had my own bedroom. And every day, instead of being obligated to be in the same bed with each other, we got to choose. Now, 90+% of the time we slept in the same bed. 90+% of the time. But those times when we needed space, right? When maybe I was, going through a lot through my menstrual cycle. And I was like, I need to cocoon in my own room and not talk to you and watch movies. And maybe I'm going to cry. And I don't need to engage you in my emotional world. Whereas in the past, it would be like, I'm emotional. You have to fix it. Men are not good at fixing women's emotions. And so women, if you are feeling overly emotional, go to your girlfriends. Go get a hotel for a night. Go on a hike, just hang out with female people or hang out by yourself. But don't, when you're overly emotional, especially when you're in your moon cycle, don't expect your man to be able to understand it, because his rod cell universe, the way he sees the world, will get really, really overwhelmed, right? So here's another thing. I think couples should plan an adventure. And maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month, and you take turns doing each other's stuff. But I also think it's really important you both have separate lives. What I mean by that, right? Let's say your partner really enjoys sports and they want to go to a football game, or they want to go to a hockey game, or they want to go to a soccer game, right? Let them go with their buddies. Unless you really like sports, go with them. And then you like dancing, or you like, opera, or you like a concert, do that separate. And then once a month, do one of the others thing, right? Do something different together once a month, right? I think it's really helpful to have your own lives, to still be slightly separate, and then find ways to come together. But I think it is extremely important for men and women to give each other space. And why? Men need space till they can talk to you if they're struggling with something, right? They really need that time away. Now, this might not apply to everybody, but this is just what I've learned along the way. I've also learned that men love when women have their own lives, right? When they are independent. But what happens to independent women, I know this firsthand in every relationship I've ever been in. The independent, they're like, we love that you're so independent. And then we get into a relationship together And I'm like, oh, good, this is an amazing exchange. So let me support them. And then I stop taking care of myself. And almost always is when the relationship falls apart because they start not being okay. Their world gets unraveled because I'm a lot. I'm a big energy. I'm independent. I know what I want. I know where I'm going, more or less. I know what I want to create. And so when the man starts to fall apart in the relationship, especially in a relationship with an independent woman, here's my advice to all you independent women out there. Let them go live your life. Keep doing the things that you did in the beginning. Let them fall apart. Don't chase them. Let them come to you. Don't try to fix them. Let them have their space. Let them take a month if they need to, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. Almost every independent woman that I've talked to that got into a relationship that might be still in relationship with the person that they fell in love with, almost every single one of them talks about they had a time apart because he wasn't doing so well. Let the man figure it out in his own way. Huge, huge, really, really, like, honestly, if I could express this one thing, but women who are independent, they're like, oh my God, there's this man and now he's not doing well, so let me start showing up. And then what happens is we tend to become their mothers, we tend to become their providers on some level, and they don't want that. They do not want that. And then it makes them feel like they're not the man. And then guess what? Roles get reversed. You step into a more masculine role because you are good at that if you're independent. And then they become more feminine and the balances get off. It doesn't work and it gets messy. And so my advice is yes, check in. Yes, say hi. Don't just disappear, but just give them space. Nothing's wrong with you, right? And then when you need that space, nothing is wrong with you for needing that space. Guess what? When this is happening, the man is upgrading. He's discovering more of who he is. He's also realizing, do I want this woman in my life still? And if he does, he's going to have to go through a season or a period of transformation in his own way. He doesn't want the therapy per se. He doesn't want the ways that you get your nurturing and your therapy and your ahas and your spiritual connection. Most men don't want the community. They do sometimes, but maybe they find it going out in the woods or hanging out, with friends or going to sports or playing sports, right? We all operate really differently. And I think this is a huge distinction. And so, my invitation to all of you listening to this episode today is please go easy on yourselves. Please constantly nurture what you need. And sometimes roles will get reversed and the woman needs the space and the man needs to let it. Because guess what? We all phases, all stages, we're all always going through a massive growth massive growth spurt. And so sometimes, right, we're not meant to be on the same page with each other all the time. That's not what a relationship is. A relationship is hold space for the other as they grow or need support. Hold space for the other as they grow or need support. And can you grow and hold space for each other in a continuum? Because guess what? You might fall in love with somebody and have fallen in love with someone 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Please don't expect them to be the same person that they were when you first met. The journey, the gift, the beauty is to continually let them evolve, right? And sometimes women outgrow their men, and sometimes men outgrow their women. And so we sometimes have these ideas that we can't be ourselves anymore, or that we weren't ourselves in the beginning and now we want to be, but the person's used to the old way. We've got to give each other the benefit of the doubt, right? And so instead of shutting down and going away, see what it's like to try to be yourself. See what happens. You never know unless you try. And so my sort of parting words for you today would be this. Don't give up who you are for somebody else. And don't assume that somebody that you've been in a relationship for a long time isn't willing to grow and change with you. Don't assume that they don't want you to be you. Don't assume that it's going to create problems. Assume that we're all just doing the best damn, thing we can every day. And every day is different. And so the question is, are you willing to show up as who you are every day and allow it to evolve and shift and change? So, my friends, relationships, they may be complicated. They may take us on a crazy journey, but I believe truly that they're worth it, no matter where you are in your season. And that's relationships with friends, relationships with coworkers, relationships with colleagues, relationships with, spouses, intimate others, children, grandchildren, parents, relationships, and connecting and being authentically you is what makes, at least in my opinion, this life worth living. So may you not give up on who you are. May you continue to grow and evolve. And may you continue to trust that where you are is exactly where you're meant to be. So thank you for listening. If this show today inspired you, please like it, share it, continue to check out our shows, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.